Dr. Alexis Morgan wiped sweat from her brow as she carefully brushed away centuries of dust from what appeared to be a control panel. The light from her helmet illuminated hieroglyphs unlike any she'd ever seen before. 3 months of excavation on this seemingly unremarkable moon orbiting a gas giant in the Tau Ceti system had finally yielded something extraordinary. "Ravi, you need to see this," she called over the comm doctor. Ravindra Patel's voice crackled through her helmet. "On my way. Don't touch anything." "Very funny," Alexis replied, continuing her meticulous work. As the senior xenoarchaeologist on humanity's first deep space archaeological expedition, she knew better than most the protocols for handling potential alien artifacts. But something about this discovery made her fingers itch with anticipation. The structure they'd uncovered was buried beneath nearly 30 meters of regolith. Initial scans had detected unusual energy signatures, but nothing prepared Alexis for what they found. A vast complex of metallic chambers, seemingly untouched for millennia. Ravi's suited figure appeared at the entrance to the chamber, his headlamp sweeping across the walls before settling on Alexis and her discovery. "Is that what I think it is?" he asked, his voice hushed with awe. "If you are thinking it's a control interface of non-human origin that predates human civilization by at least 100,000 years, then yes," Alexis replied, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. "And it's still got power." A faint blue luminescence had begun to emanate from the symbols as Alexis cleared them of dust. The light pulsed gently, as if responding to her touch. Ravi approached carefully, his specialized scanner already taking readings. "These energy signatures are like nothing in our database. The power source must be incredibly advanced to last this long. Or incredibly dangerous," Captain James Torres added, stepping into the chamber behind them. As the military liaison for the expedition, Torres viewed every discovery through the lens of potential threat assessment. "We should contact Earth before proceeding." Alexis sighed. "That's a 17-day communication delay, Captain. Whatever this is, it's the find of the millennium. It could revolutionize our understanding of a clearly advanced alien civilization that's no longer here," Torres interrupted. "Which begs the question, what happened to them?" A valid point, but Alexis was too enthralled to give it proper consideration. Beneath her gloved fingertips, the symbols seemed to rearrange themselves, responding to her touch like a living thing. "It's some kind of adaptive interface," she whispered. "I think it's trying to communicate." Before Torres could protest further, a holographic display erupted from the panel, bathing the chamber in pulsating light. Three-dimensional star charts materialized in the air, along with symbols that shifted and changed as if attempting to find a common language. "Incredible," Ravi breathed. "It's running through communication protocols." Alexis reached out instinctively, her hand passing through one of the floating symbols. The hologram froze, then expanded dramatically, filling the chamber with a projection of what appeared to be a solar system. Their solar system. "That's Sol," Torres said, his voice tight with alarm. "That's Earth." Before anyone could respond, the hologram shifted again, displaying what looked like technical schematics. Complex structures and energy pathways that Alexis couldn't begin to comprehend. As the three humans watched in stunned silence, the projection settled on a single, pulsating object. Something that resembled a sphere within a sphere, complicated by numerous interlocking components. "What is that?" Torres asked. Alexis shook her head. "I don't know, but..." The ground beneath them trembled. Dust rained down from the ceiling as the entire chamber hummed with awakening energy. "Everyone out," Torres commanded, grabbing Alexis by the arm. "Now!" But it was too late. The panel beneath Alexis's hands flared with brilliant light. A wave of energy pulsed outward, passing harmlessly through the humans, but causing every electronic device they carried to momentarily shut down and restart. When their systems came back online, the holographic display had changed again. Now it showed what was unmistakably a beacon, a signal being transmitted outward in all directions across space. "What did you do?" Torres demanded, his face pale behind his visor. Alexis stared at her hands, then back at the display. She swallowed hard. "I think we just announced our presence to someone." The hologram shifted one final time, displaying two distinct symbols. They pulsed in alternating rhythm, like two heartbeats out of sync. Two civilizations, Ravi said quietly. And I don't think they were friends. As if in confirmation, the hologram simulated what could only be described as warfare on a cosmic scale. Planets shattering, stars going supernova, entire systems being consumed in waves of unimaginable destruction. Then, abruptly, the display vanished, leaving only the faintly glowing control panel. The silence that followed was broken by an alert from their ship in orbit. "Expedition team, this is Curiosity," came the voice of their pilot. "We are detecting multiple energy signatures activating across the moon's surface. And something's approaching from deep space. Multiple somethings traveling at impossible speeds." Torres's jaw tightened. "Pack up. We are leaving. Now." "But we can't just abandon this discovery," Alexis protested. "We need to understand what's happening." "What's happening," Torres said grimly, "is that you just stumbled into the middle of someone else's war. And I think the combatants are on their way." Admiral Hiroshi Yamamoto stared at the holographic display dominating the war room of Earth Defense Force headquarters. 6 months had passed since the Tau Ceti incident, and humanity was now facing an existential crisis unlike anything they had prepared for. "Show me the latest projections," he ordered. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Amara Okafor, manipulated the controls. The display zoomed out to show the entirety of human-controlled space, a modest bubble extending roughly 30 light-years from Sol, encompassing 17 colonized worlds and numerous outposts. "The Vex fleet continues its advance from the galactic north," Okafor reported, highlighting a cluster of red markers. "Current trajectory puts them at the Procyon colony in approximately 72 hours. "And the Mori?" Yamamoto asked, still maintaining their defensive perimeter around Tau Ceti. Blue markers formed a rough sphere in another sector of the display. "They have made no hostile moves against our evacuated outposts, but continue to block all approach attempts." Yamamoto nodded grimly. The two alien civilizations, which they had named the Vex and the Mori based on intercepted communications, had arrived within weeks of Dr. Morgan's fateful discovery. The Mori had come first, massive crystalline vessels appearing in the Tau Ceti system with no warning. They had ignored all human attempts at communication while establishing what appeared to be a defensive position. The Vex had arrived a month later, sleek, predatory ships of iridescent metal that had immediately attacked both human and Mori positions. The research vessel Curiosity had been the first casualty, destroyed with all hands except for the 3 expedition members who had been returning from the moon's surface in shuttle. "Dr. Morgan," Yamamoto said, turning to Alexis, who stood uncomfortably in her dress uniform at the edge of the room. "You have had time to study the data. What are we looking at?" Alexis stepped forward, her face haggard from months of sleepless nights. "As near as we can determine, the Vex and Mori fought a war that lasted thousands of years, perhaps tens of thousands. It appears to have ended roughly 100,000 years ago, possibly in mutual devastation. What I activated was..." She paused, swallowing hard. "It was essentially a doomsday switch, a final resort weapon the Mori created but never deployed. When activated, it sent a signal that reawakened dormant systems throughout this quadrant of the galaxy, automated factories, defense platforms, and apparently some kind of, well, for lack of a better term, resurrection protocols for both civilizations." "You're saying we woke the dead?" Ravi interjected from his position beside her. He had lost an arm during their escape from Tau Ceti, now replaced with a cybernetic prosthetic. Both civilizations had contingencies in place to reconstitute themselves if certain conditions were met. What Dr. Morgan activated was the trigger mechanism. Yamamoto's expression remained impassive, but his eyes betrayed his concern. "And now they have resumed their ancient war, with us caught in the middle." "Not exactly in the middle, sir," Captain Torres said, stepping forward. Unlike Ravi and Alexis, he seemed to have thrived in the crisis, his military bearing more pronounced than ever. "The Vex see us as a threat. The Mori appear to view us as..." "I'm not sure. Possibly as children who have wandered into a minefield. The Mori have attempted to communicate," Alexis added. "We have managed rudimentary exchanges. They are apologetic in their way. They claim they have been trying to contain the situation to prevent the Vex from fully reawakening." "Fat lot of good that did," someone muttered from the back of the room. Yamamoto silenced them with a glance. "Options. The Mori have proposed an alliance," Torres said. They have offered technology, weapons that might help us defend against the Vex. Can we trust them? Yamamoto asked. Alexis and Ravi exchanged glances. We don't have much choice, Alexis said finally. The Vex ships outclass our best vessels by several orders of magnitude. The colony on Eridu was destroyed in minutes. The room fell silent at the mention of Eridu. 8 million colonists gone in an afternoon. There's something else, Ravi said hesitantly. Something the Mori told us about the weapon I activated. All eyes turned to him. It wasn't just a beacon. It was the key to something they call the Terminus. A weapon capable of, well, they don't have words that translate precisely, but the implication is that it could end the war permanently. By destroying the Vex. Yamamoto asked. By destroying everything. Alexis clarified quietly. At least, that's our interpretation. The Mori created it as a last resort, a way to ensure that if they couldn't win, nobody would. They never used it because even they were afraid of it. Yamamoto considered this for a long moment. And where is this Terminus now? The Mori don't know, Ravi said, or won't say, but they believe Dr. Morgan now holds the key to finding and activating it. All eyes turned to Alexis, who unconsciously touched her temple where a faint, bluish pattern had emerged after her contact with the alien console. It pulsed occasionally, like a second heartbeat beneath her skin. I see, Yamamoto said finally. So our options are to ally with one ancient alien civilization against another, or potentially unleash a weapon that might destroy us all. There's a third option, Torres suggested. We find this Terminus first. Use it as leverage. Leverage? Alexis asked incredulously. We are talking about a weapon that could potentially erase entire star systems. Precisely, Torres replied coldly. The ultimate deterrent. Before the argument could escalate further, Lieutenant Okafor interrupted. Admiral, we're detecting a new energy signature. Something's coming through near Jupiter's orbit. The display shifted to show a massive distortion in space, from which emerged a vessel unlike any they had seen before. It was neither the crystalline architecture of the Mori nor the predatory design of the Vex. Instead, it appeared almost biological, a great leviathan swimming through the void. Are we in contact? Yamamoto demanded. They are broadcasting on all frequencies, sir, Okafor replied. In perfect English. A new voice filled the war room, resonant and androgynous. People of Earth, we're the Custodians. We have been awakened by the activation of the Terminus key. We come to prevent catastrophe. The Custodian vessel, which called itself Mnemosyne, dwarfed the largest human ships. From aboard its cavernous interior, Alexis studied the being that had introduced itself as the speaker. It, or they, for the speaker referred to itself in the plural, resembled a shifting cloud of iridescent particles roughly arranged in humanoid form. We do not understand, the speaker said, its voice emanating not from the cloud, but seemingly from the air itself. After all this time, why would nascent species activate the key? It was an accident. Alexis explained for what felt like the 100th time. We had no idea what we were dealing with. The speaker's form rippled in what might have been agitation. The key cannot be activated by accident. It requires intent. Beside her, Ravi shifted uncomfortably. They were alone with the speaker in what appeared to be a chamber designed to accommodate many different life forms. Various environmental conditions existed in different sections, with invisible barriers maintaining separation. What exactly is the Terminus? Ravi asked, changing the subject. The Mori implied it was some kind of superweapon. The speaker's form contracted slightly. The Terminus is not a weapon. It is an ending and a beginning. That's not very helpful, Alexis said, frustration evident in her voice. We apologize. Concepts do not translate perfectly. The speaker paused, its form shifting through several configurations before settling again. The conflict between those you call Vex and Mori has played out many times across many cycles of existence. The Terminus was created to break this cycle. Cycles. Ravi asked, you mean this has happened before? Civilizations rising, warring, and falling. Many times, the speaker confirmed. We Custodians observe, record, and wait for the next cycle to begin. It is our purpose. Wait, Alexis interrupted. Are you saying you just watch civilizations destroy themselves? Over and over, without intervening. It is not our place to intervene, the speaker replied, only to remember, to ensure that what was is not forgotten. Alexis felt a chill run through her. That's monstrous. The speaker's form flickered. It is existence, birth, growth, conflict, death, renewal. The pattern is maintained for millions of years, and the terminus would break this pattern. Ravi asked, yes, its activation would reset all advanced technology within this spiral arm of the galaxy. A cleansing that would allow for new forms of development, new paths of evolution. The speaker's form expanded slightly. That is why its use was never authorized. The Mori created it, but lacked the resolve to use it. The consequences were uncertain. Reset technology? Alexis repeated. You mean like an electromagnetic pulse? That doesn't sound so apocalyptic. Your understanding is limited by your frame of reference, the speaker said. The terminus affects quantum fields that underpin what you would call physics. Certain technologies, certain forms of energy manipulation would become impossible within the affected region. For millions of years, Alexis and Ravi exchanged glances. The implications were staggering. Why are you telling us this? Alexis asked finally. If you don't intervene, why come here at all? The speaker's form pulsed once, brightly. Because you, Dr. Morgan, have bonded with the key. This has never happened before. It suggests possibility. Alexis unconsciously touched the blue pattern on her temple. What kind of possibility? That this cycle may end differently. The speaker moved closer, its particulate form shimmering. The key has chosen you. It remains to be seen why. Before either human could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the vessel. The speaker's form contracted sharply. We are under attack, it announced. The Vex have found us. Namasani shuddered as something impacted its shields. Alexis and Ravi were thrown off balance, catching themselves against a nearby wall. We must return you to your people, the speaker said, its voice taking on an urgent quality for the first time. The Vex will not stop until they possess the key. Until they possess you, Dr. Morgan. What? Alexis demanded as they were hurried from the chamber by suddenly appearing custodian drones, mechanical constructs that moved with fluid grace. What do they want with me? Control, the speaker replied simply. The Vex believe the terminus can be modified, used not to reset, but to direct the next cycle, to ensure they emerge as the dominant power. Another impact rocked the ship. Through a viewport, Alexis caught a glimpse of space alight with energy weapons. The sleek predatory forms of Vex ships engaging both the massive custodian vessel and a hastily assembled human defense fleet. Admiral Yamamoto committed our ships to your defense, Ravi realized aloud. Without consulting Earth government, a tactical decision, came a new voice. Captain Torres stepped into the corridor, accompanied by a squad of Earth Defense Force Marines. The Custodians have knowledge we need. Captain, Alexis acknowledged coldly. Their relationship had deteriorated over the months since Tau Ceti, his military pragmatism clashing with her scientific ethics. Doctor, he replied with equal frost. I see our alien hosts have been forthcoming with you. More than your military has been with the civilian government, she shot back. Torres ignored the barb. The situation has escalated. The Vex fleet that was approaching Procyon changed course. They are all heading here. And the Mori have broken through their own blockade at Tau Ceti. They are en route as well. A convergence. The speaker interjected, its form dimming noticeably. All players moving toward the key. This is unprecedented. Another, more violent impact sent them all staggering. Emergency lights activated along the corridor. We have lost primary shielding, the speaker announced. We must. The sentence was never completed. A section of the corridor ahead disintegrated in a burst of energy, revealing the void of space momentarily before emergency containment fields snapped into place. Through the shimmering barrier, Alexis caught sight of boarding craft attaching themselves to the custodian vessel's hull. Vex boarding parties, Torres said grimly, drawing his sidearm. Fall back to the shuttle bay. There is another way, the speaker said suddenly. Its form had contracted to a tight, brilliant point of light. Dr. Morgan, the key you carry can do more than activate the terminus. It can communicate with Vex and Mori technology. Perhaps it can end this without destruction. How? Alexis demanded. I don't even know how to use it. Intent, the speaker replied. The key responds to intent. It chose you for a reason, Dr. Morgan. Perhaps because you alone among all present have the potential to see a different path. Another explosion rocked the ship. Through the containment field, Alexis caught a glimpse of figures moving, angular, insectoid forms that could only be Vex troops. We don't have time for philosophy, Torres snapped. We need to move now. But Alexis stood her ground, a realization dawning. The key didn't choose me because I activated the beacon. I activated the beacon because the key chose me. She turned to the speaker. That's it, isn't it? It was never an accident. The speaker's form pulsed in affirmation. The pattern suggested a new variable was needed. A species young enough to lack preconceptions. Individual enough to value distinctiveness over uniformity. Human enough to understand both conflict and cooperation, Ravi added softly. Not a coincidence that we found the beacon when we did. Fascinating, Torres said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Now, can we please focus on not dying? The containment field flickered as something began to breach it. The Marines raised their weapons. There's no time to reach the shuttle bay, the speaker said. The Vex will capture or kill us before then. Its form expanded again, enveloping Alexis in a cloud of luminescent particles. If you are willing, Dr. Morgan, there's one option remaining. Alexis felt a strange resonance between the alien presence and the mark on her temple. What I need to do? Simply decide, the speaker whispered, its voice now only in her mind. Decide how this cycle should end. Alexis stood at the center of a vast, empty space. Around her, stars wheeled in unfamiliar patterns. This wasn't physical space, at least not as she understood it. The mark on her temple burned like ice, sending waves of sensation throughout her body. Where am I? She asked, her voice echoing strangely. You are at the nexus, came the reply, not from a speaker, but from the space itself. The point of convergence, the moment of choice. Before her, 3 pathways materialized, glowing tracks stretching into infinity. 3 options, the voice explained. 3 possible outcomes. The first path glowed red with violent energy. The Vex solution, dominance, control, a universe shaped by a single will. Efficient, ordered, unchanging. The second path shimmered with crystalline blue light. The Mori solution, isolation, preservation, a universe of separate, protected enclaves. Safe, stable, stagnant. The third path pulsed with green vitality. The terminus, reset, renewal. A universe returned to its foundational state. Unknown, unwritten, uncertain. Alexis studied the paths, understanding instinctively that this choice was bigger than herself, bigger than humanity. These are the only options. They are the options that have always been, the voice replied. The patterns that repeat. Then they are insufficient, Alexis declared. I reject them all. A ripple of what felt like surprise moved through the space around her. Clarify. The Vex want to control everything. That's tyranny. The Mori want to separate everything. That's isolation. The terminus would destroy everything. That's nihilism. None of these acknowledge the value of connection, of cooperation between different kinds of beings. The space around her shifted, contracted. You propose an alternative? I propose communication, Alexis said firmly. Understanding. I propose we use the key not to activate the terminus, but to forge a new path. One where Vex, Mori, Custodians, humans, and whoever else is out there can actually talk to each other. Understand each other. Impossible, the voice responded. The cycle has always been thus. Then it's time for the cycle to evolve, Alexis countered. The speaker said the key responds to intent. Well, my intent is to break the pattern without breaking the participants. The space around her trembled, stars flickering like candles in a breeze. Such a path has never been attempted. Then we will be the first, Alexis insisted. The key chose me, a human, for a reason. We are stubborn. We don't accept false choices. We make our own options. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, slowly, a fourth path began to materialize before her. Unlike the others, it wasn't a straight line, but a complex network, a web of interconnected strands glowing with a soft white light. This path is uncertain, the voice said. Unstable. It may collapse, or it may flourish, Alexis countered. That's the point of true diversity, true cooperation. It's unpredictable, messy, but infinitely more creative than any single approach. Another long silence. Then, the key accepts your intent, Alexis Morgan of Earth. But manifestation requires sacrifice. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only redirected. Alexis understood immediately. The mark. It's not just a key, is it? It's part of me now. Yes. To create this new path will consume its energy. And yours. Alexis thought of Earth, of humanity's brief but vibrant history, of the future they might have among the stars, not as conquerors or isolationists, but as bridge builders. She thought of Torres, his military pragmatism, of Ravi, his scientific curiosity, of Yamamoto, his strategic wisdom. Different approaches, different strengths, all valuable. I accept, she said simply. The white path before her blazed suddenly with brilliant light. The mark on her temple flared in response, energy pouring from her into the nascent pathway. Alexis felt herself diminishing, dispersing, becoming one with the network she had chosen to create. Her last thought was a hope that they, all of them, every species, would make good use of the chance she was giving them 0.5 years after what historians now call the convergence. Admiral Yamamoto stood on the observation deck of Earth's first purpose-built diplomatic vessel, the Alexis Morgan. Around him, representatives from 17 species mingled, some in environmental suits, others in their natural forms, all engaged in animated conversation mediated by the translation field that was the most immediately practical outcome of the new path. Remarkable, isn't it? Ravi said, joining him at the viewport. The former xenoarchaeologist now served as Earth's ambassador to the nascent Galactic Council. His cybernetic arm had been replaced with a more advanced Mori design, its crystalline components shimming faintly in the starlight. 5 years ago, 3 of those species were actively trying to exterminate each other. Yamamoto nodded thoughtfully. Dr. Morgan's sacrifice changed everything. Her choice changed everything. Ravi corrected gently. She always insisted we had options beyond conflict or capitulation. Below them, the blue-green orb of Earth rotated slowly. In near orbit, vessels of various designs moved in orderly patterns. Human ships alongside Vex and Mori craft, all working together to construct the massive gateway that would serve as Earth's connection to the growing interstellar network. The Vex representative has requested a private meeting, Yamamoto said, changing the subject. They are concerned about the fringe worlds. Ravi sighed. Old habits died hard, even with the communication network Alexis had created with her sacrifice. The Vex tendency toward control, the Mori preference for isolation. These remained cultural inclinations, even if the compulsion to enforce them on others had been broken. I will speak with them, Ravi agreed. Remind them that diversity of approach is a feature, not a bug. Yamamoto allowed himself a small smile at the technical terminology. And what the Custodians? Any word from a speaker? They continue their observation role, though now they share their archives freely. Thousands of years of recorded history, available to anyone who asks. They are still adapting to their new purpose as active participants rather than passive observers. A soft chime interrupted their conversation. A holographic notification appeared before Ravi, a message from the Mori delegation. It seems they have decoded another fragment of the key's energy pattern, he reported, scanning the message. They believe they may be able to reconstruct certain aspects of Dr. Morgan's consciousness from a network. Yamamoto's expression remained carefully neutral. Is that wise? The woman made her choice. She did, Ravi agreed. But she also created a path where impossible things become possible through cooperation. He closed the message with a gesture. The council will debate it thoroughly before proceeding. Below them, Earth continued its eternal rotation. Human civilization carried on, now part of something larger, yet still distinctly itself. In breaking the cycle of conflict, Alexis Morgan had not erased the differences between species, but elevated them, transformed them from sources of strife into wellsprings of innovation. The ancient war had ended not with dominance or isolation or reset, but with the hardest path of all, genuine understanding. A path that required constant effort, constant communication, constant compromise that a human path, the diplomatic gathering continued around them. Ravi found himself unconsciously touching his temple where, just occasionally, he thought he felt a phantom pulse. A second heartbeat. A reminder of the friend who had seen a better way. Dr. Morgan was right about one thing, Torres said, approaching them in his formal Earth Defense uniform, now bearing the insignia of the Joint Security Council. Humanity really is stubborn enough to make the impossible happen. Not just stubborn, Ravi corrected with a small smile. Hopeful. And that, perhaps, is our greatest strength. Through the viewport, a Vex ship and a Mori vessel maneuvered in perfect synchrony to position a massive section of the gateway. Human engineers in EVA suits directed the operation, tiny figures against the vastness of space. Different species, different approaches, working toward a common goal, a new cycle. A better one. For a moment, Ravi could have sworn he heard Alexis laughing.